Hi guys, JP here. I'm just going to do a real quick video on how to add a sound font to your Proffie board, to your Proffie Saber. Um, a lot of you have been asking me, because a lot of you have been getting the LGT Sabers, seen some of my videos. Um, so I just want to give you a basic rundown. Hopefully this will go well. I'm using a new program for recording my laptop, so I just want to bear with me if there's any issues along the way. Um, so hopefully when you all get your saber from LGT store or wherever you get it, from Dark Wolf Sabers, there's multiple stores, Fire Sabers, Crimson Dawn, Rebel Sabers, wherever you get your saber from, pre-installed. Um, you want to make sure you ask. I know, like Dark Wolf Saber, uh, he puts a folder on his SD card with like the backups of the stuff that's installed on there, which is good to have because before you do anything, um, I'm not going to go into the whole update in the Proffie OS or any of that stuff. Um, there's other videos, Megtooth on YouTube. He does some great videos on like from the get-go on starting up by downloading Zadig, um, which I'll type that in. Looks like this. If it pops up here. Sorry, my computer's a little slow with this program. So right here, you can download Zadig online. If you go to, let's see if I can point you on the right direction. Zadig basically is a driver. It's an installation program to install a driver so your computer can talk to your board, connect with your board, and that's how you're going to end up flashing your board. So easiest way for most of y'all to find this stuff um, is go to Google and you can type Proffie board, and usually in the results you're going to see most likely the site that I'm trying to get y'all to. I don't know why this is being slow today. Sorry guys. It's not my internet. I got to clean my computer up a little bit too. So see this Frederick. I don't know how to pronounce it. Hubby. I don't know how to pronounce it. I've never spoken with the gentleman, but he's the one that created this board. So if you go to this website, this basically has a lot of resources on it for the board. You can, I think, find the manual on here. You can create your own config on here. This might be I'm just giving y'all some basic info. I'll get into the adding a font, so you can kind of listen to all this. You can ignore it. You can wait and fast forward through. But version V2 is the board most people are using right now. I think there's a 2.2 update. The OS is, I believe, up to 5.7 is the operating system that it's on now. I think a couple of my sabers are still on 4.7. That you don't have to update them if you don't want to. Like the gesture controls, I think you need to update to 5.7, but do what you're comfortable with. If you like the saber the way it is and you just want to add some fonts, so be it. I'll show you how to do that here shortly. But this place right here is where you just find all your resources. Gives you a schematic, but that's in the manual too. You can download the manual. A lot of people, what they make a mistake when they get a new saber and they're just getting into this, they'll go, oh, I'm going to make my own config. So they'll scroll on down here and they'll input the stuff in here, that it's NeoPixel. This is for extra LEDs and accent LEDs and all that stuff. Because you want to, your configuration file needs to match your saber. If you get an LGT, saber, most likely, unless it's something extravagant, it's just going to be like a one-button setup with a lighted, illuminated button. Some of them might have two buttons, but most of them have one, unless you have like the Graphics or the movie prop replica sabers might have two buttons, and most of them probably don't have an accent LED on them somewhere. Some of them might, I don't know. I only have one um, movie replica, but people come in here and they'll put all this in here. 144 is like your typical for your NeoPixel blade. You want to keep that the same. There are some like KR blades out there that you want to put it like 264. I can't remember the number, but this just tells you how many switch. This kind of represents down here what this has. So what your Saber has. So you have a battery. Do you have a recharge port? You might not. I think most LGTs do. How many buttons do you have? You can see how this is showing 2 buttons. They might not look like your button, but that's just representing your button. So, you know, most people come in here and they'll do it so they only have 1 button. I got 1 button, so I'm setting it to 1 button. Then they'll come down here, and this gives you a base config, guys. So this config, you can see how it has 1 button. If I click 2 up there, it's going to add a line in here and call it auxiliary, because you'll have an auxiliary and a power button. But most people will make the mistake. They'll copy this config, they'll paste it into, you know, the software to flash their Proffie board, and then all of a sudden stuff doesn't work right. Well, because they're still using all this down here. This is like a baseline font setup. So when you get one pre-installed from a company, it's already got its setup fonts on it. So this is most likely it's not going to match any of that. So then you're going to have issues. So first things first, get the files for your board that was installed for you by the seller you bought it from. That's a must before you start messing with the board. Otherwise, you're going to give yourself a bunch of headache, and you're going to be on Facebook, going to all the groups. There's really good groups on there. Don't let me discourage you, but you can save a lot of people a lot of time trying to help you if you just make sure you have the proper stuff in the beginning. So you want to have a config file already. Most people, they'll create this config, they'll, you know, create the file, they'll make their own, they'll download the OS, the latest OS, they'll put that config in there, and it's not going to really work with their Saber well, because for one, it doesn't match any of their sounds and stuff like that. So that's a whole nother topic. But this is the site you want to go to. Frederick right here. Hubie, I don't know. Sorry again. And you want to go to a V2 board most likely. Some people have 1.5s, the older ones. They have different things on this site. So this is a good thing to get to download Zadig. Zadig, like I said, is the program you run when you first hook your board up. I'm not going to go through that. Hopefully you're already past that point. Once you do that, you shouldn't have to do it. Keep running that program. So you'd only have to connect it to your board once. I have my board connected right now. And one way you can tell, I'll go to Control Panel, because it's better than the device listing that Windows 10 shows normally. So I'll go to Control Panel. And if you did everything correctly, open this up here. Sorry, this is being slow, guys. If you did this correctly, open up your Control Panel, and you go to View Devices and Printers. I think it's partially this recording program is probably creating some of this lag. I've never used this program before. So I did a test on it though, so I know it works. But let's see here. Okay, so in my device control panel under devices, you can see here's my Proffie board here. So it is picking it up. Another way you can be sure is you also download this program here called Arduino. This is the program you flash your board with. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a quick setup that I have. I have a little folder on my desktop called Lightsaber. You all can do anything, do it the way you want to. I highly suggest, you're going to see where it says if you start messing with your config, it'll, you know, the manual I think kind of says call it my config. Well, that's fine and dandy, but for me that can get confusing, because you start doing that. You can have as many configs as you want. So what I like to do is when I know I'm working with, you know, 4 different sabers, 3 of them have 1 button setups. It can get confusing really quickly on which one you did which, you know. So you got to think of naming your stuff and naming folders. So I have a Proffie saber folder because I had other sabers before that weren't Proffie, and I was doing other stuff. So just ignore all this. But because I have to take some time to really boil mine down and you know, organize it a little better. But I'm just trying to give you an example. So these are folders I got. First thing you do when you get your saber, if you don't have the config files that they used, ask for them, and in the meantime, take your SD card out and put it in a card reader and back up your SD card. So I have an LGT Graphics. It really was an LGT. I should have named that differently. It's an 89 Sabers, but it was from TXQ Sabers. So while I'm doing that, actually I'll do that later. Anyway, in here I wanted to incorporate anything that had to do with this saber. So there you can see it's TXQ. And this is a backup of everything that came on that saber. Now, as you can see, it's just the sounds. Didn't have, I have it somewhere else on my computer. I didn't put it in here. I need to do that, but it had the config too. There was like multiple configs. So you'll have a config folder, and it's probably going to say something like this. It's probably going to have a Proffie OS in it. This is like the main folder with all the files that the Proffie board uses. And you should get a backup of something like this with those sounds for your saber. They might call it config. They might call it, you know, backup config, whatever it is. But when you go in there, you have all these folders and files that are for the board. Config folder is where all the configs are, because usually the Proffie OS comes with multiple configs. You got to find out which one came with your board, but get that from whoever you bought it from. Now, say when they send it to you, it comes as my config, or it says LGT Saber, you know, cross guard, or whatever it says. You can rename it anything you want. Now, let me get out of this one. Sorry, guys, I'm in the wrong, because I've updated this. I'm going to actually add a Soundfont to my graphics. That way you all can see how it works. Let me get, because I updated the graphics to the new OS, or the newer OS, which is 5.7. I was on 4.8. So you can keep these separate too, because you might want to go back on, you might want to not update one. So, you know, whatever you do, keep them separated. So in here, same thing. When you download it and make sure you unzip it, guys. When you download a Proffie OS, it's going to be zipped. Make sure you unzip it before you start messing with it, because a lot of people will try to install it and flash their board, and it's still zipped, and it gives them errors because it's not been unzipped. Make sure you unzip it. You extract everything. So in here, this is the one I will be using right now for this video. In this config, I renamed the proper config. I renamed it Graphics, because that way I know it's for my Graphics saber. If I end up getting 2, I'll have to come up with a different system. I might name it, you know, I'm not going to get 2 of the same Graphics, so if I know one's 89 Sabers, I might rename this 89 Graphics, and then the other one, whatever it is. So this is what a config file looks like. Kind of like the one on that site. That's a base one now. This one matches my saber that was sent to me. So up here, everything, you don't want to change any of this. And you might go, why is it saying this config when it should be saying graphics? Well, no, this is the base config that the Proffie board uses. Don't change this. Number of blades, I have 1. If you have a cross guard, it's going to be 3. Stuff like that. That's just to give an example. Buttons, I have 2 on it. I have an auxiliary button and a main. A lot of the LGTs have 1, so that should say 1 there. This, you kind of, you can play with this a little bit. I think default mine was like 1,000 or 1,500. I can't remember. If they're like the 24 millimeter basic from LGT. I think they're 4 watt. I can't remember what size they are. I wouldn't go much higher than that. You don't want to, damage the speaker. But some people, if they're, the higher end speakers, they'll go up to 3,000 on them. This is like your LEDs that are in your blade. That's a typical one that a lot of people use. This adjusts the sensitivity of, like, when you hit your hilt. Some people might go, they might barely swing it and it's clashing all the time. That's where you change this. I'm not getting into all this, so you can read up on it in the manual. Don't touch any of this stuff. So, prop files. Okay, prop files are what control your button setup. So, if you don't, and I get a lot of people say, I got the Saber, I uploaded a config, and now when I hit the button, it turns the blade on, and if I hit the button just real quick, it turns the blade off. Well, when I got it, you had to hold the button in for a couple seconds, then it turned off, and that's the way I like it. A lot of people say, I like that too. You want to hold it in just for a little bit to shut off. Otherwise, when you're swinging it, you barely hit the button, it's going to turn the blade off all the time. Well, what they did was they didn't define a prop file. They changed the config that came with it, and I'm sure when the company sent it to them, it had one pre-selected, and then they when you buy a Saber and you start messing with the config without knowing what you're doing, you're going to erase all that, and you're going to give the base one off the site is probably a prop file you don't want to be using. So you have to add this line right here, config prop, and then include, and you have to add all this, but you're telling it to point to the props folder that's not in this one, this is the config folder, back one. In the main Proffie OS folder, there's a props folder, and I like this one. A lot of people like this one. Some people use the stock buttons prop. This one works pretty good with the LGTs. The Saber _ SA22C _ buttons.h, and then this little end define. Adding that in here will tell this now your Saber is going to point to this prop folder. And out here, I'll show you that. Back in the Proffie OS folder, where all the main folders are, you're going to see this props folder. And you can go into this props folder, and it's going to come with different prop folders, or different prop files, sorry. And I use Notepad to open all these. Y'all can use whatever editor you want. You still want it to be text. So this is the one I use right here. So if I open this, mine's already set to open with Notepad, so you can actually set yours to do that. But I want to show you what these prop files look like. So when you open up a prop file, it's going to give you a basic definition or basic description of what this prop file is for. And this one right up here says it includes 1, 2, and 3 button modes. So you know that this prop file right here, you can use it on a 1 button, a 2 button, or 3 button setup. And a lot of you are going to have 1 button. So if you keep scrolling, it's going to tell you what the controls are for a 1 button and a 2 button. And so right here you can see button config. This is for a 1 button. It tells you activate, to activate mute, double click and hold while. So you might want to print this page out if you have a printer. I suggest doing that. But it gives you all the controls if you have a 1 button. And if you have a 2 button, you keep going and it gives you all the 2 button controls. If you're using a 2 button setup. Sorry, that's 1 button again. I'm just going over here. 2 button controls. 2 button. Power, blah, blah, blah. Tells you how to enter volume mode. I get that a lot from people. How do you get in the volume mode? Well, this file in here tells you how to do all that if you use that prop file. So you go, yes, I want to use that prop file. So let me close that. So now you pick the prop file you want. It can be any prop file you want. But once you pick one, in your config for your Saber, you have to name that, and it has to be identical to that, what you picked for your buttons. I'll show you that one more time. So this is defining, telling that there's going to be a prop file used. This is telling it where the prop file is, props folder, and then there's the name. And it is case sensitive, so you don't want to. You want to be sure you don't put a capital S. You want this to be identically named as the one in that prop folder that we were in. Okay, and then underneath your prop folder, you have all your presets. These are the fonts with the blade effects and all that. This is, you'll see this the way it came from whoever you bought it from. If they give you the config, that's what you need. The key is to have that config file. So I'm going to add a font. Okay, so this is what I have currently on this Graphics. Most of them are stock from TXQ and they sent it to me. And this does take up room. I haven't done any of the new updates yet that allow you to save space on the Proffie board. I just haven't had time. And you can see I have a 2-button setup, because if you look down all the way down the bottom, it tells you button power button pin, that's telling it which button, and button auxiliary. So I have 2 lines. If I only had 1 button, this whole line right here would be gone. And then the end, that line would be up 1 space. That's for 1 button. Some people ask, how do I switch buttons? I like the little button. I have 2 buttons. Some people be like, I have 2 buttons and I want the bottom button to be the power and the top button to be the aux. Well, that's when you switch these 2. So you would take this and put that where this is, aux pin, and you take aux pin and put that where that is. And that'll swap your buttons. But I suggest just keeping, if you don't really have any knack for this stuff, don't do too much. So I'm going to do a simple font addition. There's a few ways you all can do this. When you download a font from any of the sites, you make sure it's for a Proffie setup. I think from what I've heard, you can use CFX fonts without having to change anything with the way their folders are. You can just use a CFX font right in a Proffie, for a Proffie board. It's what I've heard. I haven't done it myself, but anyway. So every preset has a line that starts with this character here. And this names the folder of the font that's on your SD card. So your SD card is going to have multiple folders on it. Each one's a font, and they have their own names. These are case sensitive. You want to match it identically. Then it tells you you can play music on your Saber, a track. Usually it's like 2 quick button hits, or sometimes it's a hold down for 2 seconds and let go, whatever it is. But this is telling it for this font, for this specific font, it's going to point to your tracks folder. There's 1 tracks folder on your SD card with a bunch of music files or sound files in it. This is using the royalty wave or WAV file that's in the tracks. And then it goes on, and this is the whole blade style. What colors it is when it's clashes. I haven't messed with this really too much. If you go to FET263's website, FETT, I think it's 263. He has a pretty cool editor, which I haven't used yet. I've just seen video on it. I haven't had a lot of time, guys, to be messing with all this stuff. I really want to get some time to do it. But you can go in there, and apparently you can, I've seen video, you can even copy one of these styles and paste it into his thing, and you can edit it. Or you can start from scratch. You can say, I want my blade, when I turn it on, I want it to be orange. And how long does it take to come out? How long does it take to go in? What color is the clash? What color is the lockup? And on his site, there's like little pull down menus, and you can a little color chart, and you can pick the different colors. And when you're done, it'll come up with a line like this, and you can actually set it, to produce the code line. And you just replace one of these lines with what his site gives you, and it'll do exactly what you created on his site. And some fonts come with these lines on a separate little text file or something that they're already preset for them. Some fonts don't come with anything but the sounds. So say you want to just switch one out. You don't care so much about the color of the blade. Say you like the color of this one font on your Saber, but you just want to change all the sounds. Well, that's a simple thing to do, because what you can do is, and I'll show you a little example. I have a font folder over here. I don't remember, I still have that config open. Don't forget that either, guys. So I created a font the other day. It was a Predator based font, and this is the actual folder that I made to put on the SD card. Called it the Predator, and inside there it has all the folders for this font. It has Clash folders, you know, the boot, sound, font, force. Font is what it says when you pick that font on your Saber. You know, that's the way it picks the sound. You know, like if you go to, it'll say a quote from Kylo Ren. That's how you know you're on your Kylo Ren font. Well, that's what this one does. It tells you what font you're on. Just hums. I mean, this is the whole font that I made. Most of it was I took another font and I edited a bunch of stuff with Predator sounds, which is pretty cool. But what I did was I created this WAV, which is the Predator theme song, and that's going to go in the tracks folder. So I'm going to do that on this graphics for you guys, for myself, and just show you what I'm doing. These config INIs, these are already set up. Like I said, I took a previously used font that I had and I edited a bunch of stuff. I liked the way the colors were on the blade and stuff, so I didn't mess with that. So it's this, I left all this stuff alone. Now I did take the blade style that I liked and copied it and just pasted it into a text file. So that way I could use this anywhere I wanted. Now remember the config I showed you guys that I have is right here. I'm going to end up putting that in here. So I'm going to create a new spot for a new font. I want this Predator font. But what you could do, and I'm going to show you this. Right now I have my SD card loaded in my card reader on my laptop, so that's over here. So this is my SD card for my graphics. It's got all these font folders on it. And you can see tracks. All these fonts, whatever music they play for each one, they all point to this one folder. And they just point to a different named one for each font. One font might say, where I showed you those little quotes, so this font here, royalty, is pointing to the royalty WAV. And you can see that is right there. Well, this font, the return, is pointing to darkness. That is right there. That's the music for that font. And then, so this is the font name folder. This is the music for that font. So I'm going to add this Predator one. So what I want to do, I can create a line. I think I got enough room on this Proffie. I can create a line. I heard stories where, you know, I don't know how many it can hold. I can even take one of these out because I don't like all these anyway. I might just add one and see if it works. We'll see. Let me just add one and see if I run into issues. I got too many on there. So I'm gonna come under the return and just make a little space in there. So if I click in front of that guy there, I can hit enter. I'll do it one more time. I just like to line stuff up. I don't think it matters a whole lot. I think it's just as long as it's in the line there. So I made a little gap there. So I'm going to my font that I created. I'm going to make sure I don't have too many of these open here, because I don't want to do that. So this is the font that I created. This is that little text file that I created in that Predator font. So you'll see a line like this, or if you create one on FET263 site, it'll give you a line. It might not have this part. Usually his site just gives you the style, so that'd be like from here on down. But I already have this set up, so I'm going to do this whole line. Make sure I have the whole thing all the way. Control A. Okay. Let me close this out. Okay. Oh, my config's open. So I'm going to Control V here. Oh, it's not working there. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. I hit Control A. I'm such an idiot. Hold on. Let me open that back up real quick, guys. Sorry. I'm trying to talk and do this all at the same time. Let me go back into my font preset line. Yours is going to look different, your font folder, but it's going to have it. If it has a preset blade style for it, it'll have all this. Let me highlight all this again. Control C, not Control A. And pop that in here. And if you have that little gap, you can just bring this guy back up. Okay, so there's the Predator font line that I added to my Proffie. Okay. So now you just got to make sure this stuff right here is on your SD card. So the track is Predator and the folder is the Predator. So if I go to my fonts, I can take this whole folder here, which is the whole Predator font, hit Control C, go down to my SD card, because it needs to be on my SD card, Control V, and they are kind of big, so give it a second. So I'm putting that whole font folder on my SD card. And your SD card can hold quite a bit. I don't know why some people are like, I want to try and buy like a 128 or 64 gig, gig card for my Saber. And I think that some of them work, like the 32s and maybe a 64. I've heard some people having issues with it. But you can actually fit quite a few fonts on a 16 gig. So why mess with them? And you can buy, like, they're so cheap. I would just buy several of them. And, you could have like all dark sounds on one SD card, and you could do anything you want, because you can have as many configs as you want, and many font files, and you can just swap out SD cards as long as your config has, like, say you have 5 sounds on one SD card and 5 on another SD card. Well, as long as your config has all 10 of those on your Proffie, you can just swap the card out and it'll work, because your config is going to just point. It's going to try and grab what it needs off the SD card. So anyway, I put the Predator in here. I still got to move the track, because I want the music for that font. So there's the tracks folder. So if I go into my Predator folder that I made, this is the track that was in that config line. So I want to copy that, and I want to put that in my tracks folder. And I can actually get rid of it out of the other folder. I don't want something trying to mess up. I don't think it's going to matter, but I don't know for sure. So I want to get rid of it out of the original. So there's the Predator. I don't need it in here anymore, because it's actually reading out of the tracks folder. This is just a copy. I have the original font that I created saved, so let me delete this. And I open all my WAV files with Audacity. It's a really good free program. AUDACITY. That's the name of the program. And that's if you want to start messing with creating fonts, but anything. Anyway, so this is my font. This is the preset line. I don't think the Proffie's going to try and read this. I don't know. I've never messed with actually doing it with this in here. It should only read what it needs. So this right here shouldn't create a problem. But I'm going to get rid of it anyway, because I already have that backed up, and I have the line already added to my config. So I'm going to leave everything else. So if I close that, so now it's on my SD card. And it's in my config. My graphics config that I created. And I made it, this was like 1800, so I turned up the volume to 2000. I wanted to see if it's going to affect anything. So now that font is right here, the Predator, pointing the music's going to point to that track, that Predator track lab that I put in the tracks folder. So that's it. Now, if you didn't want to, if you don't have a line style, like I said, what you can do, an easy thing, is you copy that font onto your SD card. Say you download one called Superman. Okay, I'm just throwing something off the top of my head. So say the font you download has all the files in it, and the main folder is called Superman. And you love how it sounds. You saw the preview, and you're like, that sounds cool, but it doesn't have any blade effects or blade style set up for it. Now say you find one, like say just for instance, like this one here. Say you like this one. It's blue. Say it's a blue base, and it's like, oh, that's perfect for the Superman sound. I just want the Superman sound. Well, what you can do is you put that Superman folder that you paid for, or you might have a free font. I don't know. Anyway, you put that on your SD card, and say it has a track in it that is the Superman theme. You want to copy that track and put it in the tracks folder what's on your SD card. But the rest of it, the Superman folder, you put in the main part of your SD card. And then here you would just name it exactly the way it's named in your SD card. If it's capital S, it's Superman with a capital S, you would just, what you can do, if you didn't want to get rid of a font that you liked, you can just copy. And they always start with this character and end with that character twice with a comma. So you can see here's a new preset here. So you could technically copy this whole preset. You don't want it, that's a new preset there. You could copy this whole one here all the way over, but you could copy that, put a gap down here, you could paste it, and then just change this name to Superman. And the tracks, say the Superman one's called, I don't know what it, just say the theme or the music for that font you bought was Superman theme. Whatever it's called, whatever one that you put in that tracks folder, you change this name to that. Okay? And when you download fonts, you want to make sure they're at the right, if they say they're for Proffie, then you're probably good to go. If you download something from like a CFX or something else, you're going to want to use Audacity. You're going to download Audacity, open that wave sound with it, and you want it to be 16-bit mono, 44100 megahertz, I believe, or kilohertz. But that's what the sound setup you want to be for these is 44100 and 16-bit mono. And because you might get a font from somewhere else and it's like set up completely different settings, so you want to change all that. But if it's for Proffie, you're probably fine. So I added this printer, so now let me close this config and save it. Yes. Okay, so I added that font. So I'm going to open up Arduino, which I already have it open. So if you download Arduino and you got to the point where you're picking up your Proffie on the Zadig program, once you do that, you should be good. You open up Arduino, which you want to open it up wherever you downloaded that Proffie OS. So I'll show you what yours is going to be wherever you save it. But wherever you download that Proffie OS and you unzip it, you want to open up Arduino from there. You don't want to go to like start programs and open up Arduino. You want to open it up, and I'll show you. So here's like the 5.7 version. I already have it open, so I'm just going to show you where I went. So when you download the Proffie OS, you want to open that folder, go into Proffie OS, and if you look in there, in the main folder, there's this Proffie OS INO. That runs the Arduino program. So you want to open it from the Proffie OS folder that you downloaded. You don't want to install Arduino, when you first download Arduino, you want to get, you can run it. You can download Arduino when you go to the Frederick site and download the actual program. But when you go to open it to flash your board, you want to open it from the actual Proffie OS folder. You don't want to open it from Start Programs Arduino. So when you double click this INO, it will open Arduino. And it'll look like this. Okay? So Arduino comes preload, it's already pre-set up. What you will have to change a few things, and I'll go over that real quick. Up here in the corner, now you want to make sure your Proffie board, when you plug your Proffie board in, you want to make sure you're using a data cable USB, not just a charge USB cable. I used some of my phone cables because they are data and USB. So anyway, once you get that hooked up, you've gotten past that point. You can hook up your Proffie. You can see it in your control panel as being hooked up. You can also, up here in the corner, there's a serial adapter or serial monitor. It can click. You can click that. Oh shoot, I did it time out on me. Hold on a second, guys. Let me make sure. First thing, you want to go to Tools, sorry, you want to go to make sure the Proffie board V2, because that's what you're using, or if you're using a different version, but most of them now are these V2s. Go to port, and you can see I have mine checked. Before, when I clicked this serial monitor, it said couldn't communicate. It was trying to look up COM5. See down here it says board is COM5 not available. Well, then I picked this. Then I was able to talk to the board. I don't know what. There it goes. So it's reading my battery voltage. I still have the battery in. But it is talking to the board. So in here, if you look down here, it has all these different config files. Okay, and I just recently changed that config. It didn't say my config. I changed it to Graphics for this Graphics. So down here, all these little these forward slashes, that means these are inactive. So say you want to, update. You're using this same Arduino, but you have like 2 or 3 sabers. That's why I say name your configs appropriately. Say you got a Graphics like mine. I named it Graphics. Say you got an OB1, and I named that config for that saber OB1. You can put all those configs you have that you'll use, you can put them down in here. And just name them or add them to these lines, because these are just default that you get with Arduino. Doesn't mean you have those actually in yours. But as long as they have, so you could put your 3 different, let me undo that. Let me cancel that. I think I just screwed that up. Save changes, no. There we go. Hold on. Let me show you guys that again. I was trying to talk and I accidentally edited the line. So you can add all your configs that you use to those lines and just enable the one you're actually working on. So as an example, like I said, you got to go to the main folder and then run that IO folder file. Just takes a couple seconds to open up. So all the ones with those 2 forward slashes in front of them are inactive. It doesn't get rid of them. It's not, when you upload your board, it's only going to read the one without those slashes in front of it. So say you have graphics.h here. You've got ob1.h here. You've got 3 of your sabers in here. But you're working on, like me. Say, I'm working on my graphics right now. So this normally right here would have the 2 forward slashes in front of it. If you add those to that, it'll just deactivate that config. So when you flash the board, it's only going to read the one that's without the 2 forward slashes in front of it. So I've changed the name of this one to Graphics, so I'm going to change this line, because that no longer exists, to Graphics. That's what my new config is labeled. And like I said, you can just add as many as you want underneath, and just the one without the forward slashes is the one your board's actually going to flash to. So once that's done, you can do a test run, verify, and without trying to actually, like, say you're worried that it's not going to work or you goofed. Well, the best thing to do is you have this little verify up here and an upload button. If you want to just see if you're going to have any errors before actually flashing your board, you can do this verify button, and it's going to do the same process it does when it flashes. But it's kind of like a trial flash. It's going to just go through the process without actually flashing your board and look for errors. If it says it's fine, then feel comfortable and go ahead and doing the actual upload to your board. If it has errors, because you don't want to do this and come to find out you got errors. Now your saber doesn't work at all until you fix those errors. Okay? So always use this verify to make sure there's nothing going to be if you know there's something, if there's errors, then you got to try and figure out where those errors are stemming from. If it's the way you you worded something. Like I said, everything is case sensitive. You might have put in your config line, the font is under, like I said, Superman, but you put a lowercase s in there, and on the SD card it's a uppercase s. Something that small will throw this whole thing off. Okay, so I'm ready to upload to get that Predator font back on mine. So I'm gonna hit upload. I hope. So we will see. I don't care if it doesn't work because I know enough about this that I'm not scared if it doesn't work. You can see down here it says compiling sketch. Over here there's going to be a progress bar. And then down bottom, if nothing's wrong, it'll have like a little percentage uploading line down in this area down here. So right now I am uploading that config to my board with the new font on it. And it takes a couple minutes. So mine is running a little slower today too. I think it's this video recording software. There it goes a little further now. But the easiest way to add a font, here, let's see here. So it looked like it was going to be error, but it's not. See how it's down here? I don't know if you can read this, but it says, let me move this window down a little here. It says download, and this is actually, I mean, it's uploading, but that's going to the board right now. 26% done. So as of right now, I have no errors. It wouldn't get this far if it had an error. And then when it's done, it'll say upload complete. It tells you how big the file size is total, and it'll tell you how much percentage you have left on your board. It's kind of small. I mean, it doesn't. There's a new update or something where it tells you how to add this this one update, and you add a line to your config and flash it, and it'll actually allocate space. It'll save space on your board. And I think the new version of Proffie that's coming out, I don't know when. There's talk about it maybe in the spring. I don't know, but supposedly that one they've made more room on the version 3, I think, board.
Font directory not found. SD card not found.
Now what that's saying is, I'm not worried about that. That's saying font directory not found. My board actually said that. Font directory not found, SD card not found. That's because my SD card's not in there right now. It's in my SD card reader, which is fine. And I think I have it set. Let me see here. See how it says up here you have type serial? Now, if you wanted to have your SD card in your Proffie board while you're doing all this, and there's tests you can run on your SD card, you can always set it to serial plus mass storage. And that'll it won't give me that little error because I can leave my card in there. You can actually access your card, I think, through while it's plugged into your Proffie board. I like to take my SD card out, put it in a card reader, and mess with it on the computer that way. I don't like messing with the SD card, adding stuff to it while it's plugged into the Proffie board. That's just me. It's all up to you guys what you want to do. I have mine set to serial. That's why you got that little audible, because it's just letting me know, hey, your SD card's not in here. I know that, it's fine. I can put it in after the fact. So all that uploaded. So I'm going to close Arduino, and I can hit yes, because remember I changed this graphics part here. Or I can hit no and just change it again next time, but I'm going to hit yes. And down in my tray, always make sure if you have your SD card plugged in to a card reader on your computer, make sure you eject it. I'm going to eject the card. And I'm taking the card out right now. I actually just unplugged the Proffie. You can hear that. So now my Proffie board, my Saber, is unplugged from the computer. My SD card is now back in the Proffie board. I don't know if y'all will be able to hear this because I'm not switching video. But I'm going to now check to make sure that Soundfont got added. So me pop this out here.
This is everything we cannot fail.
Okay. Okay. So there's my sabers on. Try and get to the next font here. There's the Predator font.
One ugly motherfucker.
So it worked. So
Ray Skywalker.
oh, come on. I accidentally got to that menu.
That lightsaber was Luke's. Ben Solo. The Force is Jedi. Luke Skywalker.
So I put the Predator in after the return.
Teensy. Jedi. Smooth. Teensy.
So the Predator font, when I put it in my config, it came after this one, so you'll hear that. I'm going to the next font. That's the Predator font. So it worked. So that's that. There's the track. I put that one Predator we have in the tracks folder, and there it's reading. You can see it's reading the music fine. Okay, guys. Well, I hope some of this helped. I know it's going to be a long video, but thanks for watching. I'm not like the best at this. I just nowhere near. I haven't had much time to mess with it, but hope some of the info helped. And y'all have a good one. And don't feel don't feel pressured that like you have to update your Proffie. If you enjoy what you have, you can easily add a font the way I showed you. Just by main thing is get the config file. That is a must before you start messing with it. Okay, so hopefully y'all have a good one and take care.